Hi there, my name is Diane, but you can just call me D. Welcome to my channel. I finally did it. As a first video, I thought it would be nice to list all the books I've read in 2020 and give you the star rating and maybe like say a little thing about it. Also, I want to apologize in advance if I mispronounce any of those names. I've tried researching, but I do have an accent and I do forget. I've read 53 books and one of which was a reread. They might not be in chronological order, but it's most likely how it went. First book I read in 2020 was The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Trotsky. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. In contrast to that, my second book was Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin, and I gave it 1 star. Not only did I not love it, I really hated it. Moving on, The Icelandic Manuscript Murders by Sarah Winokur, and I also gave it 1 star. Three Dark Crowns by Kendall Blake, I gave it 4 stars. I read Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Hausman, and I gave it 5 stars. And I also read Heartstopper Volume 2, and I also gave it 5 stars. Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill, and I gave it 2 stars. I like the premise and I also like the beginning of it, but then like at some point during the book it just felt like it was kind of done, like the story was over. There was nothing very interesting anymore about it. The Blood of Elves, which is the first book after the short stories in the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski, and I gave it 4 stars. A slow introduction after the fast pace that we had for the short stories, but if you're interested, push through it because the second and third book are really good. Recursion by Blake Crouch, I gave it about 2.5 to 3 stars. I did not like it as much as Dark Matter, especially because there was some inconsistency, I would say, scientifically speaking. The second book in the 3 Dark Crowns series, One Dark Throne by Kendall Blake, and I gave it 4 stars, and I felt like it was good enough to just stop here. I didn't want to continue. It's not that the series was not interesting, it's that I just couldn't stand some of the characters. So I was glad that what happened in book 2 happened, and I was just, fine with leaving it as it was. The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, and I gave it 5 stars. This was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I'm really happy I read it. It was actually suggested by my friend with whom I have a sort of a book club, buddy reading club, The Other People by C.J. Tudor, and I gave it 3.5 stars. I liked the premise, it was interesting. Didn't like the ending, didn't like the twist. Also predictable. The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. I gave it 3 stars. I was really disappointed with it. The story was okay, but I really didn't enjoy the writing style. It's lyrical and it's pretty and it's flowery, but in a nonsensical way. I didn't think that this flowery or purple prose was necessary or was well done. The Giver by Loris Lowry, I gave it 5 stars. I like the idea of it. Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, I gave it 4 stars. I read through the audiobook. I thought it was really cool. I devoured it. So The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't have much to say about that. I thought it was too long for what it was. I thought it was really dark for what I was expecting. It was a good book otherwise. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, gave it 3 stars. Not really as gothic as I was expecting or wanting it to be. Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, I gave it 4 stars. Thought it was great. Would love to have a physical copy to properly reread it and possibly continue with the series. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, gave it 2 stars, mainly because I didn't like how it was written. I thought that the Old English language are too forced. I didn't like finding out that it was paranormal. I would have preferred knowing that going in, if that makes sense. Deep Dark Fears by Fran Cross, I gave it 3 stars. Was nice, quick graphic novel. The Rules of Attraction by Bret Easton Ellis, I gave it 1 star, and nope, that was not my jam. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut Jr. I gave it 4 stars, but honestly I feel like this is something I need to reread. Knowing what I know now of the story, I will get even more out of it, and I really loved it. Another graphic novel, Eat and Love Yourself by Sweeney Boo. I gave it 3 stars. I really loved the graphics, the colors, the drawings, everything, but the story left me wanting a little bit more. The second book in the series, in the Witcher series, A Time of Content by Andrzej Sapkowski, I gave it 5 stars. I have to say, this is a lot of things are happening. Definitely have to pay attention. There's a lot going on. The Anti-Virginity Pact by Katie Wismer, I give it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I'm not really into contemporary, so you know, take this with a grain of salt, but yeah, I liked it. I'm excited to read her next book coming up this year. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, I give it 5 stars, but I have to say that I would have loved to study this book, to go through it and analyze it in detail. I just would have loved it, and I think I would have gotten more out of it that way than just reading it for pleasure. I read The Safe Place by Anna Donis, and I gave it 3 stars. I liked it okay. I mean, I don't really remember much of it, so I just have to say that there is a trigger warning that is not mentioned anywhere of self-harm. The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren, I gave it 4 stars. A really fun chick lit. There were a few points where I was disagreeing with how realistic that was, or that could have been. Yeah, that was fun. I like the dialogues between the 2 main characters. Vita Nostra by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko. This book has no rating on Goodreads. I just don't know how to rate that book. It's such a crazy story, and it's like, how did you come up with that? Definitely unique. I can't tell if it's either a 1 star or a 5 star. Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames, 2 stars, 2.5 stars, and honestly, why? It's really just 1 star. Definitely not my kind of humor, definitely not what I was expecting. Really disliked it. The Wicker King by Kay Ingram, I gave it 4 stars. 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson, I gave it 2 stars. Don't know if I'll read something else from him. Yeah. Also, it spoils many murder mystery books, so Waking Lions by, okay, I'm not gonna say it wrong, Ayelet Genda-Goshen. I gave this book 2 stars. This was supposed to be a thriller, but it's not. It's more like a comment on the treatment of African refugees and the underlying racism in Israel. Yeah, I don't know. The writing style just wasn't for me. Dune by Frank Herbert, I gave it 3 stars. I was in love with the first part. If I had read it at the time it was written, I think it would have been a great unique book. It was a little bit hard to connect with some characters. I just felt like they were a bit distant from us, and it was hard to feel emotions towards them. I mean, it's just my opinion. I do understand why people like this book, and I do not regret reading it. I'm really glad that I did. I'm not really into sci-fi to begin with, so The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, and I give it 5 stars. This was amazing and took me by surprise. It was very touching. I felt a lot reading this book. The Darwin Affair by Tim Mason. This was the part of the big library read. It was fast-paced. If you like Dan Brown, I think you would enjoy that type of book. Can you not? Another graphic novel, This Is Our Pact by Ryan Andrews. Loved it, gave it 5 stars. I thought the illustrations were amazing, the story was really good and fulfilling for the reader. The third book in the Witcher series, Baptism of Fire, and by Andrzej Sapkowski. I gave it 5 stars. This one was my favorite so far, apart from the short stories. I loved it so much. It just mainly follows Geralt, so that's probably why. It was just funny and clever, and yeah, I just loved it. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I gave it 5 stars. Loved it again. Riley Sager is gonna be a auto-read author from now on. The Clockwork Crow by Catherine Fisher. I gave it 4 stars. It's a middle grade. Got it on NetGalley. I really like the atmosphere. I like the story that felt like a fairy tale. I know there are some inconsistencies and it's not like a perfect book. How a Woman Became a Lake by Marjorie Salona. I give it 5 stars. This was amazing. This was definitely not at all was what I was expecting going in. I got it on NetGalley and I thought it was a thriller, but I would say it's more like a mystery literary comment. It's just funny because sometimes you go into books with expectations and you end up hating them. Sorry if the lighting changed, I had to take a small break. So like I was saying, this book got into it with completely different expectations, but I ended up loving it. The Housewarming by S.E. Lines. I gave it 1 star. This was definitely not for me. I didn't like the writing style. It was very rambly. I didn't like the plot. I didn't like the plot twist. I just didn't like anything about it. The Haunting of Beatrix Green. Volume 1 by Rachel Hawkins and I think a bunch of other authors. I thought the premise was great. I thought it was really spooky. The atmosphere was really spooky. Also very gory, which is not something I really enjoy. But the romance was a little bit too insta-lovey and very cliche, so I gave it 3 stars. American Predator by Maureen Callahan. I have to say that I didn't finish this book, but I did go through it, so I didn't rate the book. True crime books are just not for me. They just feel way too real and just enhance my anxiety, and no. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I give it 4 stars or 3.75. I thought this was a really good book. I did think that a few of the twists were predictable, in my opinion. I liked how the book was written. I liked the mixed format. I think it's a good book. There's one twist I didn't really like, and it's not really where I wanted the story to go. One, None, and 100,000 by Luigi Pirandello. I gave it 2 stars. This was definitely not for me. I just did not connect with the writing style at all. The idea was really cool and I think it might be enjoyable for other people, but it was just not for me. Then I read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, the first book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. 3 stars. I thought it was fine. It was nothing special, nothing unique. Before I read the second book, I decided to go and read the short story The Tailor. I didn't rate it because it was so short, but it was interesting. I read The Department of Sensitive Crimes by Alexander Michael Smith. I gave it 1 star. I was really excited about this book and this was definitely not for me. The author tried to do something to take the Scandinavian noir genre and flip it on its head. I didn't like it. I thought the way it was written was super problematic and I would not recommend this. Then I read The Midnight Lie by Mary Rutkowski. I give it 5 stars. I absolutely love this book. I'm still thinking about it. I cannot wait to read the next book. I just loved the storyline and I loved the relationship. I'm just really excited for the next one. Then I read The Silver Serpent, which is the second book in the Gilded Wolves trilogy, I think, by Roshani Trotsky. I gave it 5 stars. This was magnificent. It was everything I wanted for the sequel and I'm really glad I finally got to read it. And I cannot wait for the next one. The last book I read is The Tower of the Swallow, which is the 4th book in the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. I'm not sure what I'm gonna rate it yet because it's still on my mind a little bit. I really didn't like the first 2 chapters. I thought it was problematic. I was really not enjoying it. It was also more focused on Siri. I don't know, there was something about it that just irked me a little bit. Maybe a 3-star for now. And there you have it. Those are all the books I read in 2020, and I'm so excited to read more books this year. Here are some stats if you're interested about my ratings this year. Like this video if you enjoy statistics, especially reading stats. Subscribe for my next video.